Today, guys, is our Would You Rather episode. Today, we're going to be breaking down two guys in each of the first 4 rounds, and we're going to be helping you make those difficult decisions. So let's see how we do. Let's go. All right. Welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. Welcome in, Frankie. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, man. I'm ready to talk a little bit, choose between some guys here, set the stage. We're getting into draft season. Hey, man, it's like our Super Bowl, baby. This is fun.
This is
fun.
Mid-July. I feel like we're in mid-season form. Let's go. All right. Let's try to see if we can help you guys out here. What we're going to do today is our Would You Rather episode. And what we're going to do is we're going to take rounds 1 through 4 in this episode. We're going to pick 2 guys that are difficult to choose from. They're right around the same area, maybe similar stats from last year, but difficult decisions. And this is one of my favorite episodes of the year because you get to that point and you're staring at 2 guys, and in your draft, the clock's ticking, you start to sweat a little bit. It gets a little nerve-wracking. So if you've got some, you got to do your research here, guys. What we want to do is try to help you make decisions between these 2 guys. Now, a lot of these guys, when we're talking rounds 1 through 4, they're all fantastic players, or they wouldn't be listed in rounds 1 through 4. But there's little nuances and some changes with some of these teams that could lean you one way or the other. So, Frankie, I know you're going to give us some great info. Let's do it, baby. Let's get right into our Would You Rather?
Would you rather poke a stick up in your eye or eat a bag of shit? Sit up on a pineapple or throw it on her dick? I said, would you rather?
All right, our first Would You Rather here, it's round 1, guys. This is the scenario. Each one of these is going to have a little bit of a scenario. So round 1, you're towards the end of round 1. You want to lock down your receiver. You're sitting here staring at Puka Nakua versus Nico Collins. I love this one because this one is so difficult for me. Puka Nakua last year, let's take a look at it. He was the wide receiver 23. Nico Collins was the wide receiver 26. This year, Puka Nakua is the wide receiver 4 off the board. He's the ECR, expert consensus ranking, is wide receiver 4. Nico Collins, wide receiver 7. Frankie, why don't you lay it out for us? Make the case for both Puka and Nico. Then we're going to talk about what our opinions are, buddy. What do you got?
All right, guys, we're going to start off with the stats. We're going to hit on then the facts, and then we're going to get to the decision. So the stats here, John, you nailed it. Looking at Puka Nakua, let's start there. We're going to the Rams, sunny California, right? Excited to see what's happening. Last year, to your point, receiver 23. This year, he's listed as receiver 4. Let's talk about what he's done. Well, he averaged last year as a whole roughly 15 points a game in half PPR. And from a pure stat perspective, he actually amalgamated about 106 targets, 79 receptions, 990 yards receiving, and he also had 3 touchdowns. Okay, so what's going on in his situation? Well, it's pretty interesting. Cooper Kupp's out. We got Davante Adams in, right? And so it's a big switch up. And obviously you're looking at 2 very similar dynamic players in that of Davante Adams and Cooper Kupp, just by their stature and nature of the way they played, right? Cooper Kupp, previous Triple Crown winner. Davante Adams, perennial All-Pro. And so when we look at the full team around Puka, as I mentioned, Davante Adams, he's either going to be the true receiver 1 or receiver 1B/receiver 2 on that team. They do have Tutu Atwell. And here's what's interesting. They're going to have a rotation of tight ends this year. It's going to be Tyler Higbee now that he's healthy, right? They paid Kobe Parkinson Parkinson last year. And so he's going to be there. And now, so they have that tight end, that rookie tight end that we mentioned as part of our honorable mentions, and Ferguson. In addition to this, we've seen Kyron Williams and how effective he's been on the ground, but also how effective he's also been in the passing game. So again, the team is there. It's full. Puka's going to be a part of this entirety of this offense. And so it's going to be really exciting to see. Now, John, when we look at Nico Collins, let's shift gears, right? We're talking just stats for Nico Collins as a whole. You mentioned it, man. So we're looking at roughly about 15 points a game for Nico Collins as well, right? We just said Puka roughly 15 points a game. Nico Collins roughly 15 points a game. And when we look at what he did last year, he had 99 targets, 68 receptions, just over that 1,000-yard mark. But in addition, he had 7 touchdowns. What's fascinating is when you compare Nico Collins this year and what he did in 2023 versus what Puka did, right? We're looking at Nico Collins had 15 touchdowns in the last 2 years versus that of Nico Collins, but versus that of Puka Nakua had 9. So really, really interesting. Now let's look at the facts. Like, what's going on around the team around Nico Collins? Well, guys, there has totally been some switch-ups. Tank Dell is no longer there for this particular year due to injury, right? He'll be back. Hopefully we'll see him in 2026. Stefan Diggs is no longer there. We know based on our New Faces and New Places episode, guys, if you haven't watched it, check it out. It's really awesome. We're breaking down where some of these new players are and where they landed in the situation. Well, Stefan Diggs is now at the Patriots. And so when you look at the team around Nico Collins, they now have a different number 2 rookie, right? Jaden Higgins. They also brought in Christian Kirk. They also still have Dalton Schultzy there from a tight end perspective, who we've seen be a pretty solid red zone threat. But here's what's interesting. They still have Joe Mixon, but now they bring in Nick Chubb to aid with some of that rushing factor. So both, when you look at Nico Collins and Puka Nakua, both have a different number 2 here, guys. So for me, man, John, it's going to be really interesting to see what we decide between these two players.
It is. It's so difficult. As I'm looking through this, I mean, really, Puka and Nico's stats last year were goddamn almost identical, man.
Crazy.
I mean, targets, 106 for Puka, 99 for Nico. Yards, both of them within 15 yards of each other. Yards per reception were within 2 yards of each other. The big differentiator really was the touchdowns. 3 for Puka, 7 for Nico. Puka's he's not really a touchdown monster. That's the thing. So you could make the argument, I mean, based on points per game last year, Puka Nakua was a wide receiver 3 in points per game. And he only played 11 games, but that's kind of par for the course for Puka right now. But you could also say the same for Nico. So when it comes to injury and things like that, there's not really a separator for these guys. They're both coming in healthy this year. Now, the one thing with Puka Nakua, I mean, do you see either one of these guys could potentially be the wide receiver 1 in any given season this year?
John, I don't see it unless there's an injury. I just think Jamar Chase is too far ahead in a pass-first type of offense with the Bengals, and knowing how bad the Bengals defense is, that offense is going to need to continue to put up points in order to stay afloat. And in addition, it's just hard to look at like Justin Jefferson and dare I say even CeeDee Lamb, knowing now CeeDee Lamb has a number 2 across from him. Dak's going to be healthy, right? Their running game is really looking like some dog shit right now between Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, and everything coming out with Jaden Blue saying he's kind of a lazy dude. So for me, man, I don't see either of these guys eclipsing receiver 1 this year at least.
So it would take a couple injuries, and it would probably take an injury to Davante Adams to get Puka into that aspect as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, we've seen Puka do this and have a record-breaking, unbelievable year with Cooper Kupp still producing at a high level with him. So I'm not worried about the Davante Adams. I just think the Davante Adams addition with Puka caps Puka's ceiling and potential there. I still think he can perform the way he performed, but to perform to get to that next level, to be one of those top 3 guys, I think it's going to be difficult because I don't see this year being the year that we see a course correction on his touchdowns. Davante Adams is a touchdown monster. He's a red zone threat far beyond Puka Nakua. Puka's separation ability, Puka's ability to move around. Now Puka may be in that Cooper Kupp role where they move him around the field a little more. Davante's a true outside receiver. So it could change a little bit of how he gets open. He could get more receptions, more yardage, just maybe staying around that touchdown range. But even at 3 touchdowns, there should be some positive regression for him. He should be able to at least get to that 5 to 7 area. If he does that, I still think you're getting him right where he should be. But yeah, I mean, I do love Puka Nakua. It's hard to say no here, man. I think he's one of the safest receivers that you can get because his situation hasn't really changed. They got rid of a prolific receiver. They brought another one in. Puka still has his role established. So even though that's changed It doesn't scare me. I think it just taps his ceiling a little bit. But with Nico Collins now, I think Nico Collins, he could be the wide receiver 1 this year. I think he does have the potential, and it's the opposite effect. You got rid of Tank Dell, who had an insanely good rookie season.
Well, he's hurt, so.
Yeah, he's hurt, I mean. Yeah. That's what I mean. But, and then Stefan Diggs is gone. And Stefan Diggs is not the same Stefan Diggs that he was. However, he still demands targets. He's still a guy who's going to get the ball. Now you've got Nico with 2 rookies and Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
Nico's going to be the man this year, you guys. I mean, we love the rookie. We love Higgins, Jaden Higgins, who's going to be opposite of Nico. But that's going to take a little while. And again, they're very similar players. Stroud's going to go to Nico first. That is the first option in this offense. Also, you've got Joe Mixon still banged up. It's looking like he may not start the season. He could go into preseason on the PUP. That's very possible. So that changes things too, man. I just think the volume is going to be insane for Nico Collins. So you know what? With this very small, a hairline fracture between the two of these guys, because of that reason, and because Nico Collins got me he took me viral last year on Instagram and TikTok, and I said, there is no fucking way I'm drafting Nico Collins in the second round. Now, I'm going to tell you that you can draft Nico Collins at the turn in the first round and feel very, very happy, even above and beyond what Puka Nakua is going to perform for you, which will be excellent and top 5 receiver potential there. Frankie,
Damage, John.
Where are you, baby?
I thought we were going to disagree here, and you son of a bitch. I'm on board. I'm jumping on your Nico Collins train. Yeah, guys, I mean, think about it, right? If you're at the back half of first round, right, and you're staring at, right, we're not talking middle of first round. We're not talking early first round. We're trying to put you in the scenario. You're drafting. You're at 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever that looks like, and these are the 2 guys you're deciding between. John, I'm with you. I'm going Nico Collins, and it's crazy because I was tossing and turning about this. I'm having dreams about this at night. I'm trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do. And the reason, the whole difference for me, man, is Davante Adams. And I truly think, knowing that Davante Adams is now with the Rams, I just think that, yes, it could open up Puka Nakua much more in the medium and short game from a passing perspective. Dare I say in PPR, Puka might be the better choice just because full PPR, not half, but full PPR, because we will probably see more receptions in that of Puka versus, Nico Collins is going to have, right? We talked about 68 or whatever that may be. He might have 80 receptions versus Puka's 100, but those 80 receptions, his yardage will probably be a bit more. And again, we're looking, CJ Stroud is looking at Nico Collins for that red zone play. So for me, man, I'm rolling with Nico Collins this year. If I'm deciding between the 2, does it make me nervous? Yes. Guys, I'm not going to lie to you. For me personally, to have Nico Collins as my receiver 1, just there's something about it. Maybe it's name value. Maybe there's something there. It makes me uneasy. But knowing in the second round, guys, I might end up going receiver here and just do a 0 RB type of strat. And then therefore, I'm overcompensating for my uneasiness in my draft, knowing that I'm going to be potentially taking that of Nico Collins. So yeah, man, I agree. I'm going to be leaning Nico Collins here, but that's not a knock on Pua. That's just the situation in Houston today, and which is why I'm slightly going that of Nico.
All right. Okay, sounds good. Let's move on to the next group here. We're going to round 2, Frankie. Let's take a journey to round 2, okay? Now we need a running back in round 2. That's what we're targeting here. So we've got 2 guys we're going to be choosing from. This one's really tough too, man. All right, round 2. We're in the middle of round 2, and we're looking at Devon Achan versus Bucky Irving. Okay, this is a good one. All right, last year, Devon Achan, believe it or not, running back 7. Bucky Irving, last season, running back 16. Fantastic rookie season. All right, Devon Achan this year, ECR is running back 6, and Bucky Irving this year, his ECR is running back 10. So they're right there. They're right going to be around the middle of the second round. Frankie, lay it out for us between Devon Achan and Bucky Irving.
All right, guys, start with the stats, then we'll get to the facts. The stats are Devon Achan, guys, last year averaged almost 15 or roughly 15 points a game in half PPR. If you had him, you loved him until the end of the season. And so what's interesting, guys, is that when you look at what he did from a rushing perspective, he had 907 yards rushing. He had 6 rushing touchdowns, 2 less than his rookie year, but not anything crazy, right? 6 rushing touchdowns, but here is where my mind was blown with Achane. 87 targets. Let me pause. When you look at the uptick from what he did in his rookie year, John, his rookie year, he had 37 targets. And to go 50 additional targets with still Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I know Tyreek Hill was banged up a little bit, but that is unbelievable. So 87 targets, 78 receptions, 592 yards, and he had 6 receiving touchdowns. So what does that equate to? He had 12 total touchdowns, and he also then ended up having over 1,400 total yards. And so just absolutely incredible. Now, when we look at Bucky Irving, man, and him being on the Bucs and all the excitement that came out of his rookie season, he blew it out of the water, man. He ended up having over 1,100 yards rushing. He ended up having 8 rushing touchdowns. He also had 52 targets. People look at Rachaad White. People that is the true pass catching role for Buccaneers. But man, 52 targets for a split backfield and third down type of role for that of Rachaad White. And when you look at the 52 targets for Irving, that's fascinating. And that equated to 47 receptions, 392 yards. Yeah, man, Bucky Irving had himself a nice little rookie year. And so now, what does the situation look at? Those are the stats. Let's get to the facts. The facts are, looking at Devon Achan, it is a convoluted offense. What do I mean by that? Jalen Wright, the backup to Devon Achan, I mean, the dude's a stud, and he's breathing down his neck a bit. Do I think he's going to take any sort of serious workload from Achan? No, I don't. But just in case something happens, it makes me feel a little bit uneasy that there's a serious dynamic back behind him. Now, they also have Tyreek Hill, who's coming off an injury, right? He was battling a wrist injury all season, but now he's looking healthy. So you're going to have a healthy Tyreek Hill. You're going to have a healthy Jalen Waddle. They brought in Nick Westbrook, Achane, and then they also now have Darren Waller. So what happens if Waller comes in here and looks way better than Mike Gesicki? That starts taking, and again, there's a lot of what ifs, but those are just the facts of the team that's around him. But what if Darren Waller comes in and looks really good? What if he starts taking some of those checkdowns away, knowing Gesicki got kind of lost in the mix, right? Those are all going to affect what made Achane so special from a receiving perspective. Now, when we look at Bucky Irving, it's really interesting. And I say that because there's not a lot of changes. And the biggest change is no more Liam Cohen. So does that help Bucky Irving moving forward, or is that going to hurt Bucky Irving moving forward? Liam Cohen found a really good way how to use both of those running backs with Rachaad White and Bucky. And in addition, Mike Evans was there. He was pretty much healthy all year, which was great to see. But then Godwin went down. Now, when Godwin went down, did that change them leading into more of the run game, right? Because then we saw Jalen McMillan step up. We saw Cade Otton step up. But here's the other big difference is now they have Emeka Puka. The dude's an absolute superstar in the making. And so, yes, I know, Godwin will probably not start the season just because he's coming back from injury, things like that. And if he does, it'll probably take him about 5 weeks to ramp up. So Emeka Puka is going to step into that role. But man, I'm more looking at it from Liam Cohen leaving and how is that going to affect the rushing attack moving forward? So very interesting, John, looking at these two guys. And I'm curious to see what you think, man.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I've said Liam Cohen's name more times in these 5 episodes we've done than anyone else. But that's real, man. I mean, anytime you've got a split backfield, it makes a big difference who the offensive coordinator is. I mean, they're going to utilize those two guys in different ways with two different skill sets. Is every offensive coordinator going to come in and maybe take from the previous one? Possibly. But it is a risk. You've got Liam Cohen leaving Tampa Bay. You had Bucky on his rookie year, My concern with Bucky, I love Bucky. He's fantastic. He's a pure, actual running back. He takes diagonal cuts rather than lateral cuts. I mean, the guy he runs across field. He was fantastic. I mean, he forces arm tackles. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy. He's not anything special on paper. He's a good football player, and that's what showed. My concern with Bucky is that we're drafting him now at his peak, at his absolute ceiling. That doesn't attract me when it comes to fantasy football. I want to find the guys who have the potential to be the number one running back or the number one receiver or top 5, top 10. I just don't think Bucky has that. He came damn close last year, but I do think last year was an outlier year. I think it was one of those boner years for him. That's my biggest concern. I don't want to see a setback coming into year 2 with a different offensive coordinator. And you can't, discard Rachaad White. He's a good running back. He's not special. He's not anything else. He's a Najee Harris light is what he is. And he wasn't very good in the run game. Bucky was the running game.
Yeah.
But Rachaad White will be the third down back. He's excellent at pass protecting.
Great.
He's way better than Bucky Irving in pass protecting. And that's one of those football things that the coach isn't going to have him on the field because he can't pass protect as well as Rachaad White. That makes me nervous. The other thing that makes me nervous is that his 47 receptions last year, 26 of those were screens behind the line of scrimmage.
Whoa.
Yeah, so more than half of his receptions were in the screen game. That's Liam Cohen specific. I don't know that that's going to happen again. And I don't know that it's going to be Bucky Irving receiving all of those. Rachaad White is very good at that. He's very good in the screen game. So that's what makes me nervous. Now we go over to Devon Achan. Achan's a guy who's never been on my board. Ever. He's never been on my board. I've never had him. I never even considered him. This is the year I think Devon Achan can break fantasy. Again.
Whoa.
I do. And that's very strange because I'm not typically an Achan guy. But looking at his statistics, looking at what he did last year, the first year was he and Raheem Mostert, and they had that creative running game that no one could stop. They ran the ball more than any other team, and it was the coolest, most creative shit I've ever seen in my life. Last year, totally different world. It was all in the passing game. They had covered two safeties back there to keep Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill from going deep. That worked. So what happened? It was Devon Achan and it was Jonnu Smith in the middle of the field being able to make things happen. Well, now Jonnu Smith isn't there. And we can brag about anybody else they may have brought on. They didn't bring anybody on who's going to be a receiving tight end like Jonnu Smith. So that tells me that Devon Achan is going to be even more available in the passing game and going to be more important in the passing game. Not to mention, he's by himself in the backfield. And we saw that he can do that. Last year, you didn't see Mostert a whole lot. It was all Achan. And that was wonderful. It was actually wonderful. He ran the ball very similarly, and look at the stats between Achan and Bucky Irving. They're almost identical in the rushing game. Almost identical. So if we can see that, I don't see a huge decrease in his pass catching, which was what brought Achan to the number 7, running back. But I see his rushing getting a lot better, and he's still going to be very important in the passing game. I am choosing Devon Achan over Bucky Irving for those reasons. Higher ceiling, higher floor. You're not drafting him at his ceiling. What do you think, Frank?
John, I'm with you, man. I'm trying to disagree, but I mean, all of your perspectives are spot on, man. And I'm looking at, breaking down Achan because, dude, I agree with you. He was completely off my board the last few years. Yep. It's just because I didn't believe. I mean, you're looking at a soaking wet 188-pound running back that is sure fast as lightning, but absolutely, we're saying you can take the entirety of the load. I didn't believe it. I did not believe that he had that capability. I'm not saying I didn't believe in him from a pass catching role. I'm not even saying I didn't believe in him in a true 1A, 1B. Like, again, I say it all the time. I go back to the days of the Chargers with Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. I thought that was his role, the Austin Eckler role, when he was splitting time with a big brute kind of guy like, how Mostert was. Mostert wasn't a super big brute, but you get what I'm saying. He was very fast, but also hit the hole really hard and was kind of that great tandem. But man, when I look at what Achan did, I mean, towards the back half of the year, man, his rushing dipped, but that's really where his receiving increased. And that makes sense because that's when Tua went down. That's when Skylar Thompson came in. That's when a few of these other quarterbacks came into play, and they needed a check down guy in addition to that of Jonnu Smith. So now here's the biggest question mark. With a truly healthy Tyreek, let's say Tua's healthy for the rest of the year, does that lessen the amount of receptions naturally that Achan's going to get because Tua's going to be looking towards more Tyreek Hill and Waddle? Well, here's the reality, guys. I'm willing to take that risk than I am completely flipping everything on its head and having Bucky Irving be my true RB1. It's not the fact that I don't believe in Bucky. I am a massive Bucky fan. I loved watching him at Oregon. I was actually blown away at his response to what he did last year as a rookie. I mean, it was incredible, but I am not warm and fuzzy to where candidly speaking, I'm not ready to plant my flag in Bucky Irving as my true RB1 for my fantasy team moving forward. I just am not going to do that, especially in a half PPR. So, man, with all that being said, I'm with you. When we're looking in second round, when we're looking at middle of second round, guys, and you're looking between these two cats, I'm going Achan over Bucky, and we're going to rock and roll with it.
We agree on the first two, Frank?
Wow,
come on.
That?
We don't talk about this ahead of time, guys.
At all.
We look at it separately on our own, and we come together on camera for the first time and to figure out who we like the most. So, all right, we actually agree on the first two. That's wild, Frank. Wild. Yeah, I want to disagree with. I want to fight you a little bit, man.
Ooh, I think this next one we might.
All right, let's move on to the next Would You Rather here. Okay, round 3, guys. Yeah, this one could be interesting. Round 3, we need a receiver. Okay, we're in the front of the third round, and we have to decide between Tyreek Hill and Garrett Wilson. Yeah, when's the last time we've seen Tyreek Hill in the third round, by the way? You know?
Jeez, years.
Yeah, well, both of these guys are kind of settling back into a third round ADP. Now, that could go up. It is July, middle of July right now. But as it stands right now, this is where they are. So it looks like really good value for both guys. Let's take a look real quick. Tyreek Hill last year was the wide receiver 20. Garrett Wilson was the wide receiver 10. This year, their ECR is back-to-back. Tyreek is the ECR 14, and Garrett Wilson is the wide receiver 15. Frankie, lay it out for us, brother. Tyreek Hill and Garrett Wilson.
Guys, we're starting with the stats, right? Tyreek Hill last year averaged, and this is crazy, he only averaged roughly 10 points a game in half PPR. For Tyreek Hill, that's sinful from what we've seen previously. Actually, so much so that prior to the season, the prior 2 years, John, he had 1,700 yards in both of the prior years. So when we see then that drop down to roughly 10 points a game, that's alarming. But there's reasons behind that. Wrist injury all throughout last year, Tua getting hurt, and then you step in with Skylar Thompson and a few of these other backs or quarterbacks that we mentioned when we were talking about Achane, right? They couldn't get the ball to Tyreek. Actually, it was so bad, John. There were passes that Tyreek Hill was wide open, and they're just completely missing him. And there was a lot of frustration on Tyreek Hill's behalf. So let's look at as a whole what he did. Well, he still had 123 targets, but guys, when we look at the prior 2 years, that's down quite substantially from 171 and 170. So he had 123 targets, 81 receptions, 959 yards receiving, six receiving touchdowns. And he did actually get into the rushing game a bit more this year than really over the last 3 years. He had 8 rushing attempts and 53 yards for rushing. And so really, really interesting. But when we look at what Garrett Wilson has done, Garrett Wilson has been absolutely fabulous with the dog shit quarterback situations that he's had. If you take away Aaron Rodgers last year and you go through the laundry list of quarterbacks that he had, I mean, I can name a few off the top of my head. Mike White, Zach Wilson, and a few others. I mean, it was bad. It was abysmal. There was nothing there. And he has never had less than 1,000 yards receiving. And so in his first 3 years in the NFL, and my God, he got paid and it shows, right? Congratulations, Garrett Wilson, buddy. You got your payday, and totally rightfully so. Last year alone, John, with Davante Adams with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball, which we know it's Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. They have that simpatico, same playing field, same kind of mind meld when they're out there on the field. He still had 154 targets. 154 targets, 101 receptions, which, by the way, the most he's ever had. He also had 1,104 yards receiving, by the way, most he's ever had. And then he also had 7 touchdowns, the most he's ever had. And so now you walk into a situation to where, okay, like let's start with Garrett Wilson. From the facts standpoint, those were the stats. The facts is he's now playing with his college quarterback, Justin Fields, right? We saw what they did at Ohio State. It was magical. It was beautiful. That was the best we've ever seen Justin Fields play. Now, granted, he's also playing against other college kids. Not taking it away from anything from him, but that's the reality. NFL is a bit different of a caliber. But also, when you look at what's going on, there's no more Davante Adams. Pretty much all they have around him from a receiving perspective is Allen Lazard and Josh Reynolds. I mean, at this point in time. And then they also brought on Mason Taylor from a tight end perspective who, sure, will open up the middle of the field a little bit. Great. But then they also have Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. Neither of those guys are true pass catching backs. Just specialty pass catching. So for me, man, Wilson is 1A. And then there's nothing else after that. Now, when we look at Tyreek, it's very similar to what we were talking about with Achane. Now you're walking into Jalen Waddle again. You have Nick Westbrook, Achane. You also have Darren Waller. You have Achane. You got to worry about from a target and reception perspective. And Jalen Wright, dare I say, if he gets in the mix a little bit. So very, very interesting when you start breaking down the stats, the facts. And John, I'm curious on what you're doing between the two.
It's very, very difficult, actually. Because Tyreek Hill, it's hard to even fathom a 3rd-round pick with Tyreek Hill. This is
crazy.
This is a guy we talked about. They were the number 1 quarterback wide receiver stack for years.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even close. It was Tua Tyreek. You had that. You dominated. That's shifted. That's changed. And there's a lot of question marks. And I think, there's question marks for both guys. The big question marks for Tyreek are, if it's the Tyreek of last year, yikes, the ceiling really seems capped. It really seems limited. Is it going to be the same Tua as last year? Is Tua going to be healthy? Is Tua one headshot away from ruining Tyreek's, complete fantasy value, which we've seen happen too?
Yeah.
All of those scenarios are all possible. And it's not even that they're doubtful. They're possible, man. That could actually happen. I'm concerned about that. I like when I'm deciding between two guys like this, who are both dynamic players, who both could be a top 10 guy. I think these guys, either one of these two could creep up into the top 10 to me.
Definitely.
I tend to go to the younger guy. Garrett Wilson, we saw what he did last year, the best stats that he's had as an NFL starter yet, and he was technically the number 2. He was the 1B on the team. Now he's the 1A, all by himself. There's nobody else there. His problem is a Justin Fields problem.
Totally.
It is. And is it going to be boom or bust? Is this where we see both Tyreek and Garrett Wilson be boom or bust? Maybe. That's the answer. It's maybe. Because we've seen Justin Fields and DJ Moore have boner weeks for you when they were together in Chicago. Boner weeks, But then we see Justin Fields go to Pittsburgh and he's a game manager. So what are they going to do with Justin Fields in New York? Is he going to be a game manager and they're going to play great defense and run the ball? That seems kind of possible since that's what they have, is a great defense and 2 really good running backs. That could be possible. Are they going to let him open it up a little bit, which just opens up Garrett Wilson because he's going to be the target. He's going to get the lion's share of targets on this offense. I think it's going to be a mix of both, but I think we've seen Justin Fields be able to support a wide receiver, catch at a high level, and get good games for you. Taking Davante Adams away from Garrett Wilson, his age, he's coming into year 3 now. I just think Garrett Wilson has that potential, has that upside to do way better than Tyreek Hill this year. I'm going with Garrett Wilson, baby.
Ooh. It's hard to go against the Buckeye, John. And I'm so happy you chose Garrett Wilson because here's the deal. I don't know. And I'm a huge, OH, baby.
IO.
right? So we're Buckeyes through and through. I got a Buckeye helmet here, but the reality is that if you're in round 3 and you are now looking at, let's just say you ended up taking CeeDee Lamb. Let's just say, right, because the whole thing is you're in the front of round 3. So that means you got to be Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, right, CeeDee Lamb, somewhere in that nature to get an additional receiver. You come back round 2, right, and maybe you get your running back, right? You're feeling warm and cozy. Then you come back front of round 3. It is sinful if you're not taking Tyreek Hill. You're a sinner, okay? Guys, the reality is
A
his
pox on your houses.
A pox, right? Like, you better be putting lamb's blood over shit, right? Because the rapture's coming at that point if you're not taking Tyreek Hill in the front of the 3rd. Guys, the upside from what we've seen is monumental. Yes, I get that he has had wrist surgery. Yes, I get that affected him. No question about it last year. But here's the other thing to keep in mind. Now they have an actual viable, somewhat okay backup in that of for Miami, which they didn't have the last 2 years. It's Zach Wilson. Now, again, I'm not sitting here going crazy that Zach Wilson is the best backup I've ever seen ever. No, absolutely not. But what we saw with Zach Wilson was what he did for Garrett Wilson. There was viability there. And so what I'm getting at is if something happens to Tua, now there is somebody else that can get the rock to Tyreek. The other key call out is I love what you said about Garrett Wilson in terms of there's nobody else. It's him. I'm going the opposite way because now with Garrett Wilson, they're going to be able to key on him knowing there's nobody else there. And knowing now that Justin Fields is going to have to put the ball in a much tighter window, knowing that Garrett Wilson is going to see some help from over top from a defense perspective, that's going to cause some problems. Versus Tyreek Hill, what? You're going to double Tyreek and leave Jalen Waddle, who is a burner one-on-one? Or you're going to like what? Like not even pay attention to Devon Achan? You're going to have a linebacker over Devon Achan? That's not going to work either. So you got to roll a safety down to match Devon Achan, which leaves then over the top, right, for Tyreek Hill. So for me, guys, it comes down to Tyreek Hill's health, number 1, and number 2, Tua, to what you said, John. But then if you shore up Tua's health, right, by adding a viable backup and knowing that Tyreek Hill is already catching passes in minicamp, which he shouldn't have been doing until August anyways, but now he is, dude, you're telling me you could pair a Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb with Tyreek Hill and you're getting Tyreek Hill in the 3rd round and you don't have to spend that type of capital? Sign me up because I think the ceiling is higher for Tyreek Hill than it actually is with Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson, you're going to have a warm, cozy 1,100 mark, 7-8 touchdowns, and you're going to be very happy with your decision in drafting him in round 3. I'm not happy with that. I want to take a absolute boom type of dude because I want to go for all the fucking marbles. When I'm drafting this guy, I want every bit and piece of that risk because that risk versus that reward is back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons. That risk is when he is literally top 3, top 4 picks in the 1st round. Let's say he even returns half that value and you get a 2nd-round pick or 2nd-round value on him when you're drafting him in the 3rd. Guys, I'm all about it. So Johnny boy, fuck your Garrett Wilson. I'm rolling it with Tyreek Hill and we're going to rock and roll, baby.
Yes, we finally disagreed about somebody. I like it, man. All right, let's see if we agree on this one or not. All right, let's go. We're going round 4. Let's take a journey to round 4 here, guys. It's round 4. We've decided that we're going to target a quarterback. There's 2 guys we really like here. This is the place to get them, or we're going to punt on quarterback and wait till much later. So we're taking our round 4 quarterback here, guys. We've got Jalen Hurts versus Joe Burrow. Let's go. I love both of these quarterbacks. Yeah. Last year, Jalen Hurts was the QB7. Last year, Joe Burrow was the QB3. This year, Jalen Hurts is ECR is QB4. Joe Burrow, QB5, 1 spot behind him. Frankie, what do you got on these boys?
Guys, let's start with Jalen Hurts here. So we're going to talk stats. We're going to get you to the facts then following. The stats are Jalen Hurts averaged roughly about 21 points a game in half PPR. Pretty damn good. Now, to be fair, it's down in comparison to his last 2 prior years. However, that's strictly due to the emergence, in my opinion, of Saquon Barkley. changed a bit of the dynamic of the offense. They now had a true runner. They didn't have to put everything on the shoulders of Jalen Hurts. So that's why things were a little bit down. However, let's look at what he did. So he ended up throwing the ball, John, 361 times. He ended up completing 248 of those passes. He only had, this is crazy when you actually think about this. And he ended up what? You said he finished QB7 last year in Jalen Hurts?
Yeah.
QB7 had only 2,900 passing yards. And then he also had 18 passing touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, so very accurate. But then he also had 630 yards rushing and 14 rushing touchdowns with Saquon Barkley. So guys, absolutely crazy. Now, let's go to Cincinnati here and check out Joe Burrow and see what's cooking up in that land. So what we had from last year, guys, he ended up having roughly about 650 passing attempts. So almost doubling that of Jalen Hurts. He had 460 completions of that. He had 4,900 passing yards. Guys, it's 2,000 more than that of Jalen Hurts. He also had 43 passing touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Now, when you look at the rushing, he only had 42 attempts, 201 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tale of two tapes. So now those are the stats. That's just what it is. Let's look at the facts. The facts are, with Jalen Hurts, when you look at the team around him, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Jahan Dotson, you have Dallas Goedert. He has an arsenal of talent around him that's just ridiculous. And then I believe, John, they also brought in A.J. Dillon just in case as a backup. Pretty incredible backup. So for me, the talent pool around Jalen Hurts is just incredible, whether he's handing the ball off or whether he's throwing the ball or rushing it. And mind you, top 5, dare I say top 3 offensive line, that certainly plays into it, right? And so really good situation, right? Super Bowl champs. Hell of a good job. Burrow, on the other hand, oh, and by the way, real quick, Eagles, top 5 defense as a whole, incredible. Now you look at Burrow. Burrow with the team around him, guys, you know this. Jamar Chase, Triple Crown winner, superstar, megastar, absolutely incredible. Then you also have T. Higgins. I mean, you can make an argument he's the best receiver too. You could make that argument based on a variety of different things. And then you also have Andre Isovis, who's an excellent receiver 3. And then you have Mike Gesicki, Chase Brown, so on and so forth, right? So he has an arsenal as well. However, key call out is Cincinnati's defense is dog shit. And so huge when you guys are thinking about these two quarterbacks, if you're staring in round 4 and you're really looking there, guys, and we're talking redraft, we're not talking dynasty, that's definitely something to take into consideration. And on top of it, knowing their defense is shit, the offensive line is nowhere as good as that of the Eagles. So that means Joe Burrow is going to have a higher propensity to be taking bigger shots, and he's going to be getting sacked probably a bit more than that of Jalen Hurts. And honestly, that's what history has told us as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really the biggest differentiator for me. I love both of these quarterbacks. I've enjoyed both of these quarterbacks throughout the years. They couldn't be more different. We're doing a would you rather, trying to compare two guys. The style of play could not be more different. It's exact opposite of each other. Jalen Hurts, I love him. I mean, yeah, those 14 rushing touchdowns, he's done that consistently over the past 3 years. I mean, it's just, that's not necessarily going to go away. So that's a thing. That tush push is unstoppable. I've never seen a team get stopped on the 1 fucking yard line so many goddamn times in my life, though. Right. I could tell you that. How does that happen?
Right.
I mean, most teams don't even have that many opportunities for the tush push. How does this happen? I don't get it.
And John, to your point, 14 touchdowns. So this is Jalen Hurts rushing. 14 touchdowns last year, 15 the year before.
Right.
13 in 2022 and 10 in 2021.
That's what I mean. So you could say, 2 years ago, we could have possibly said, I don't know, man, are these 14, 15 rushing touchdowns, is this sustainable? Yeah, guess what? 4 fucking years, it's double-digit rushing touchdowns for him, So, yeah, that's a thing, and there's no reason to believe that that's going to go away. With Joe Burrow, I think Jalen Hurts is a safer pick. I think it's a safer pick. I think just his durability, the durability of his team around him and receivers has proven to be more solid. better offensive line, exactly what you said, better team. They're winning more games, much better defense. But Joe Burrow doesn't have those things. But Joe Burrow, let me just say, let me just say, Joe Burrow can be the number one quarterback of fantasy in 2025. He absolutely can. He had 4,900 yards. He threw the ball. How many times did we say he threw the ball, Frankie?
It was
460 ridiculous. Completions and 652 attempts, man. And you know what? That could go up.
It could.
That could go up. So when you're saying Jalen Hurts, you're saying, it could. His rushing touchdowns could go down, this and that. His passing could go up because they may not run the ball as much as they did. They may limit the tush push a bit. They may limit Saquon a bit and keep him healthier down the stretch. So they may throw a bit more. Great. Guess what? Joe Burrow's going to have to throw a bit more too. Just what you said. Their defense sucks. And what that means for fantasy football is more offensive opportunities. You're constantly going to have to throw the ball to get in games to try to come back because your defense let the other team score very quickly. So I like Joe Burrow for that reason. I think his upside, I think Jalen Hurts is exactly what he is. I think you can copy and paste his stats from year to year basis, whether they win the division or whether they win the Super Bowl. I think those are going to be his stats. Joe Burrow, he can do 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. That's possible this year. So I'm going with Joe Burrow for that reason. The upside's just too high. I got to take it.
John, I agree. I fully agree with you, man. And I think you hit on two key items that people need to realize when you're choosing between these two superstars. That's what they are.
Yeah.
They're both superstars. Is that Jalen Hurts, guys, he has, so let me put it like this. Saquon Barkley, Chase Brown. Saquon Barkley, right? When you look at like his ability to be able to hand off and take the load off, it's much more there than that of Chase Brown. The other two key differences is that of the offensive line. It's much, much better on the Eagles. So that makes me feel a little bit more warm and cozy with Jalen Hurts. But for me, the difference is the biggest, most monumental difference is that the defense is bad for the Bengals. And they need to be able to put up points in order for anything to happen. And here's another interesting thing. Joe Burrow, right? 2023, he was injured most of the year. They actually ended up shutting him down. He came back this following year and actually had a 70.6 completion percentage. So not only did he end up throwing for almost 5,000 yards, he also was insanely accurate. And now here's the other thing. When you look at T. Higgins was out quite a bit last year. What happens if T. Higgins now with a new contract? Him and Jamar Chase with a new contract. They're happier than hell. Now you got Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase and a happy contract. Because remember back in the beginning of last year, around this time, Jamar Chase was about to hold out. We weren't sure what was going to happen. And Jamar Chase said, you know what, screw it. I'm doing what's right for the team. And boy, did it pan out for Jamar Chase to do that, because boy, did they back up the Brinks trucks for him. But now T. Higgins is good to go. Joe Burrow's healthy. John, this could be a season. I never thought I would say this, but I thought one of the records that would never be broken was Peyton Manning it for the Broncos. When he had over that, I think it was like close to 5,500 passing yards, and he had 55 touchdowns. I mean, shattered all the shit. We could see Joe Burrow do that this year based on how bad the defense is, how powerful the offense is, how the offense has to run through Joe Burrow. Chase Brown isn't that type of back. Yeah, he's good. I'm not taking anything away from the cat. He's a solid running back, but he isn't Saquon. He isn't Jahmyr Gibbs. He isn't Bijan Robinson. He isn't Devon Achan. He isn't Bucky Irving. He isn't some of these other guys that are some of these true alpha type of dudes. So therefore, you need to look elsewhere. He's a complementary to that of what Joe Burrow and the offense is doing. So for me, man, I'm with you. I'm riding in the flames with that of Joe Burrow this year. Now, here's one call out as well. With Jalen Hurts from a strategy perspective, if you choose to draft him, no knock. I don't know if you need to go with a backup quarterback. I just think by the way he plays and things of that nature, you can actually stack depth elsewhere. Maybe it's receivers, maybe it's running backs. However, if you choose to draft Joe Burrow, guys, please take a backup quarterback just in case in a one quarterback league. because if you're taking Joe Burrow in round 4 here, right? That's early. That's right where he should be, but it's also early for a non-rushing type of quarterback. All of the eggs are in the basket of his arm. So with that being said, make sure just in case then you're taking another top tier guy. Maybe it's you can get a Kyler Murray in the 8th or something like that, or maybe you can get a Matt Stafford or somebody along those lines. Draft a backup and don't be sweating bullets if something were to happen because his offensive line is not to the level of what that of the Eagles is. Just a quick call out, but John, I agree, man. It's Joe Burrow for me.
Okay. Hey, we agreed on 3 out of 4. That's not bad. That's not bad. We did disagree. So I hope to God in our drafts, we have that Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson.
Oh, it's going to be so fun.
Problem. I love that. Yeah. All right. That's great. That is our Would You Rather episode, rounds 1 through 4. Guys, stay tuned because you know what's coming up next. It's going to be rounds 4 through 8 to do our 2-part series of Would You Rathers. These are even more difficult. So you get into rounds, 5 through 8. It's much more challenging to make those decisions. Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with your roster construction as well. So we'll get into all that, guys. So stay tuned. Once again, Frankie, what do we have coming up, baby?
Guys, we're going to be dropping mock drafts for you, so stay in tune. We're going to be dividing out a bunch of different ways to mock, different strategies, different league formats, where you are, where are you picking? Are you front half? Are you back half? Are you dead middle? And you have no idea who to pick? Well, we got you covered. In addition, guys, just to plug a few additional things coming, we're going to tell you some of the top steals of the draft. We're actually going to do some handcuffs, draft strategies, flyers. Of course, our Champions Week is coming down sooner than later in the next few weeks. And then we're doing something new, something exciting. It's going to be a generational episode. We're going to see how Johnny Boy as a Gen Xer is going to draft differently than my beautiful millennial ass. And then, John, we might have a little Gen Zer pop on. Yeah. It's just to give a different perspective as well. So we're going to implement a new generational episode. So stay tuned. It's going to be exciting.
Well, we've got to do that because all of a sudden we're really popular on TikTok. And if you're on TikTok, you got to have somebody from Gen Z. I'm sorry.
Got to.
Because I don't know what the fuck's going on with TikTok. But speaking of, guys, please subscribe, share the podcast, hit that notification bell. It's going to tell you when we have new episodes coming out. We're just throwing episodes out there all summer here, guys, leading up to the draft to give you the information. Then once the season starts, we'll have a regular once-a-week cadence for you.
Yep.
But please, also check out TikTok and Instagram, guys. These are going crazy. You want to get on there and argue with me and Frankie? Come bring it, because we've had some fun conversations recently.
Oh, yeah.
And don't forget to comment here on YouTube, guys. Comment on these Would You Rathers. Who would you take? You going to take Puka over Nico? Frankie and I both wanted Nico over Puka. Frankie and I both wanted Devon Achan over Bucky Irving. Not sure how you feel about that. I wanted Garrett Wilson. Frankie wanted Tyreek Hill. How do you feel about that? Leave your comments, guys. Let us know. We both wanted Joe Burrow over Jalen Hurts. I know that one's going to cause a stir. Those of you Philly people, come on. Get your birdies out and come and boo bird us here, guys. Come on. Give us something. But all right, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you real soon. Let's have a great one. May the fantasy gods smile upon you. Bye.